Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Tuesday, May 19th, 2020, new week, new episode of Pete's Power Plays, hosted by the one, the only, King on the Ice himself, Philly Pete, and we are live on 12 Ounce Sports and Zingo TV. This show is, as always, is sponsored by MyBookie. First off, when live sports may feel on hold to us all, but that's not the case with MyBookie. They've got tons of action for you to get in on the fun over at mybookie.ag. Whether esports or overseas baseball is your thing, they've got you covered when you use the promo code 12ounce sports. I repeat, 12ounce sports, 12OZ sports, all one word when making a deposit. They'll match your first deposit up to $1,000. If you don't feel like watching baseball at 2 o'clock in the morning, MyBookie will have you covered with online casino to scratch the itch. So, in conclusion, go to mybookie.ag and use the promo code 12ounce sports. That's 12OZ sports, all one word today for free money when making your first deposit. Also, if you're looking to freshen up your look for the summer, you have to check out 12 Ounce Sports' new line of clothing. We've got everything from shirts and sweaters to beach towels and phone cases. Find the store online today at 12ozsportsradio.com under the Our Store tab. There, you'll find a wide variety of clothing items, colors, and sizes that will suit your style. Once again, that's 12ozsportsradio.com under the Our Store tab. A lot of amazing clothing and accessories out there on the website right now. I highly suggest each and every one of you out there tuning in to check out the store. Also, once again, Seat Giant, once fans are able to get back into the stadiums, please let Seat Giant be your number one venue holder in terms of that. Please reach out to Seat Giant when getting your tickets when fans are able to get back into the stadiums. Also, last but not least, Zingo TV. When making an account for Zingo TV, please make sure you use the promo code 12OZ. That's 12 ounce, all one word, when making your account with Zingo TV. And from there, you'll be able to stream all live shows and live entertainment that we can provide to you during these times. And once again, thank you for everyone that's tuning into the new show, new episode, new week of Pete's Power Plays. This is our job. So once again, Zingo TV, thank you so much. And all you out there, please sign up with an account for Zingo TV. And you can stream all of our amazing shows that we could produce for you on the 12 Ounce Sports Network, including yours truly, Pete's Power Play. So this week we have a lot to talk about on tap for this week. NHL Stanley Cup odds and news. I want to start doing this a lot more now. Every week for Pete's Power Plays, I'm going to give out the current and updated odds for the Stanley Cup, knowing that there will probably be some sort of resume of the NHL season at some point, but we will see. And then of course updated news in the NHL world as we speak. Also on tomorrow's show, I will have this is by popular demand as well, 1 game NHL playoff simulation for Philly Pete. So I'm going to do a little simulation on my own, 1 game tournament for 24 NHL teams and see how that works out. So I will be taking the current top 24 teams in the NHL right now, 12 from the West, 12 from the East, obviously, make a March Madness sort of style bracket and just go from there. So stay tuned for that. That will be fun. That'll be a fun topic for tomorrow. Once again, Cody Jansen did come out with an article. Those that have not read that article yet from Cody, I highly recommend it. It's very, very good in terms of NHL playoffs and how he thinks what's going to happen. And again, I'm on the same boat as he is too. So, but I will have a Philly Pete 1 game NHL playoff simulation tomorrow, along with AEW Dynamite Talk. Tomorrow will be another episode of AEW, so stay tuned for that. Gina will be on board as well in regards. Also, Ozark Season 2 in review. That will be on Thursday's show, along with more NHL Stanley Cup odds and news. So that'll be on tap for Thursday. Today, we have a lot. So I'm dipping in right now. Today, I want to talk about the return of the Bundesliga Soccer League finally some sports betting guys out there or ladies that like to bet soccer. Germany came back over the weekend. That's phenomenal. And the Last Dance episodes 9 and 10. I'll give you my 2 cents and my 5 takeaways, and also how I stand as a 33-year-old male growing up watching Michael Jordan from basically from his times at Chicago to Washington, and just basically growing up watching the Bulls and that '90s team. You can appreciate it when you're in your 30s, and those kids out there that are in their early 20s really have no idea. They really have no idea when it comes to Michael Jordan because they never saw him play. So only older men like us in their 30s can truly acknowledge and appreciate what Michael Jordan has done over the course of his career and why he is just the GOAT. He is the GOAT. We all know that. So there's always going to be differentials between those young 20-year-olds and us 30-year-olds. So again, it's just it always will correlate back to the timeline of how you were born and what era you basically grew up watching basketball. So Last Dance episodes 9 and 10, the finale. And yes, I know, here we are, long and behold, the anticipation of fantasy football is in gear now. I will go over my top 5 fantasy running backs and wide receivers for this upcoming fantasy season. I've had a ton of DMs in regards to this. Mostly clients of mine that they want to hear that. They want to hear what I have. And basically it helps out the fact because they're also part of my, not only my NHL packages, but they also get my my daily fantasy lineups every Sunday for DraftKings and FanDuel. So a lot to talk about this week, but I'm going to dive right in. First off, I hope everyone had a fantastic weekend. It was beautiful here in the Northeast. I went golfing for the first time in 2 years, actually on a course. So it was nice. It was absolutely nice to get back in action and play. It was not too bad, though. Not too bad. So we'll see. I shot a 97. I'll take it for my first time back in 2 years, So we'll see what happens in the next coming weeks. So Saturday, first and foremost, once again, thanks for everyone that's tuning in to the Tuesday, May 19th episode of Peace Power Plays, hosted by the one, the only, Philly Pete. And once again, we are live on 12 Ounce Sports and Zingo TV. So here we are. Bundesliga started up on Saturday, this past Saturday. 6 games on tap. And German and Bundesliga Division 2 also was back in action. So we had a lot of action. Now, when you come back, when you want to bet on Germany, first off, I love German soccer. I think it's the most exciting league. I mean, listen, but besides EPL, okay, we know English Premier League is the best by far. But when it comes to the Bundesliga, there's so much action in the Bundesliga. It's just the teams are. I like the teams. Like each team is like pretty decently equal to each other. Besides, Bayern obviously takes a cake, but these games can be always. These games sometimes are always high scoring, and these are the best games to bet on because you're going to get goals regardless. And in each game, 5 of the 6 games, you got goals. Besides Dusseldorf and Paderborn, which ended in a 0-0 draw. However, out of the 6 games here, most of these games were 2.5, 3 with the line. So 2.5, 3. Some of them were 2.5. Some of them were 3. Like Wolfsburg, Augsburg. I know that was 2.5. That cashed. Dortmund was over 3. That cashed. I mean, you had a bunch of these games. I think 4 out of the 6 games went over the total goals for bet. So those that took the overs in all these 6 games, you went 4-2. So you got some solid money to start out the Bundesliga resume. And then Sunday we had, I believe Bayern Munich went back in the action here against Union Berlin. Then you had another over. You had FC Köln against Mainz. There's a 2-2 final there. Another over. Bayern, I know that was like a 3.5. Usually Bayern games are 3.25 or 3.5 overs. So there's really no need to bet on them because that just requires a lot of goals to be involved. When I see 4, I really don't touch that. But, here we go. So, 1-1 on the overs there. Bayern Munich scored the second goal late in the game, I believe it was in the 83rd minute there. So there really wasn't a chance. But, however, thanks to my friends at MyBookie, A bunch of my buddies signed up for that. I know that for sure. And I took a stab. I have a couple local bookies as well. I took a stab at the Werder Bremen game against Bayer Leverkusen. I took the over 3 in that game, and it ended up being 4-1 final. So you know what? As much as I love the Bundesliga, and you know what, I'm iffy when it comes back. I'm iffy when games come back. You don't know which direction it's going to go. You don't know how the players are going to play. You know, obviously it's the first time coming back in quite a long time. But again, we have sports back, and I said, you know, let me just do it, whatever. So I took the over, and lo and behold, we got a winner. So it's a good start to the Bundesliga for Philly Pete. So why not? Why not? So, and then today there's not much going on in Bundesliga whatsoever, but it's just a good kickstart to soccer. All you soccer fans out there, Bundesliga, I'm sure kept you all happy that it returned. And as far as I know, June 1st, English Premier League is returning alongside with a bunch of other leagues as well. I believe Serie A, the Italian league, and La Liga, the Spanish league, they will be returning in the middle of June. I believe they said somewhere around June between June 8th and June 14th. I'm reading, so we'll see what happens there. But as far as I know, everything is coming back to reality. Whether it's this month or next month, usually it just appears that June is going to be the month of soccer returning. And then to me, July, like I said in previous shows, July will be the return of the major sports, which includes obviously baseball, basketball, hockey. So, so there you have it. But it's just wonderful to see a top tier division for soccer come back into the world, so that everyone could finally bet on something for viewing pleasures. If you are a Bundesliga fan, it's very nice to see that we got some sort of live soccer besides Belarus soccer. Because I know I keep saying that. I know everyone is tired of me saying, hey, you could bet on Belarus soccer. Now, you have German soccer now. You have the Bundesliga to bet on now. So welcome back, Bundesliga. It's been long awaited. We missed you. We love you. And here we are. So Bundesliga talk. We're glad that you're back. So then moving on real quick, I want to discuss The Last Dance real quick. I know it's a lot to talk about, and I'm not going to get involved in the reviews or recap or anything, but I'm just going to give you all my 5 takes, because I really want to get into the top 5 fantasy receivers and running backs, which is basically what all you guys have been anticipating for, and ladies out there, when it comes to the next NFL fantasy football season this summer. But real quick, to me, the Chicago Bulls, they deserved a shot at number 7 for their championships and titles. 7 just seemed, it could have been done. It could have been done. And, it's basically, it was more about the initial retirement, and basically whether Chicago could have kept the rings coming in 94, 95. I know MJ was basically, he was tired. He was fried out. He was exhausted. He was basically burnt out, and he needed that baseball break. So if he didn't take the baseball break and he came back, yeah, you could say that they would have won a number 7, no doubt. No doubt in my mind. But 98, 99 season, it could have happened, and I believe it should have happened. At least that group could have had a chance. The same squad, and the same dominant Chicago Bulls team, as long as you have MJ right there as well, and your supporting cast that did so phenomenally well during the season that MJ was there. They all contributed to those teams, and that's why they won what they won. But I think 7 titles, they should have done it. They should have given it a shot. And it's in late episode 10. Phil Jackson talked about Reinsdorf asking him to come back, and but we saw him, as Jordan watched it on his tablet. It's basically the film crew, and basically saying that they've had to pay. He might have had to pay many free agents on that team to keep them together. Which obviously makes sense. Because they would be, a lot of other teams would be in the hunt for those free agents, and the only way to keep them together and for a hunt at 7 championships would be to keep the Bulls team together and signing them, because they were in free agency. So that was a big issue. That was a big deal. Jordan spoke a lot for basically anybody in the Chicago area, and of course the fans, that he made clear that there was other valuable teammates on that squad. So we knew that. And you know what? I think they probably would have revved up for one more dance, I should say, or one more season. And I'm sure if everything panned out, they would have signed everybody on that team for at least a year deal, maybe two. But I think if you're going to do 7 championships, then I think the 1 year deals for the free agents would have been top notch, a-okay, and they would have been fine because I knew they would have won. So really, really no problem whatsoever. But again, it was far from guaranteed. You had the trickiness. You could have had, it was iffy back and forth, but it could have happened. Yeah, no doubt. Again, like I said, sign them to a 1 year deal, bring them all back for one final season, get your 7th championship, and boom, you're done with it. Let the other players walk. I think you've done enough in your career to do that. But basically, here the 98-99 season actually got truncated to just a 99 season. So we had that labor lockout that lasted into January before the balls started bouncing on the courts again. So the regular season was just 50 games. And it obviously wasn't. It was an advantage to an older team like the Bulls. 50-game season, you always want to give the advantage to the older team because, listen, they've been in the league more than the others that were younger, obviously. So the only problem, though, was that during extended layoffs, things could happen. Like Jordan cut his finger with a cigar cutter, an injury that basically prevented him from palming the ball. He needed surgery, apparently. It was a 2-month rehab, which is insane. Yeah, you wouldn't think, but cutting your finger, those cigar cutters, ladies and gentlemen, are very, very sharp. Trust me, I smoke a cigar once in a blue moon, maybe once every month if I'm lucky. But those cigar cutters, they're lethal. They will do damage to your fingers, no doubt. And I mean, I believe it when he says a 2-month rehab. That's just how it is. They do so much damage to your fingers. So, would it be enough time for the Bulls to put it all together? I think so. I mean, first and foremost, I mean, he played with the flu and fever-like symptoms, and I mean, with a little bit of a finger issue that lasted 2 months, I think you still get away with it. Absolutely. Listen, I've played basketball my whole life since I was 5 years old. I've been playing the game for the last 28 years, and I've had 2 hamstring tears. I've had my ankles both gave out on me, but mainly and a couple of wrist injuries, but basically my hamstrings, because my hamstrings, when it comes to that, is just very hereditary. I can tell you that right now, hereditary. I also had a groin strain, but the hamstrings are just very, very difficult. They suck big time, and I understand. And I still played basketball through the pain and through my hamstrings regardless. Of course, after the game, you're in a cold bath with ice cubes and you're freezing your butt off, which is fine because that's what you're supposed to be doing after a game like that. Let the injury heal a little bit. You had all those creams and all those other sports stuff that could actually help you ease the pain and whatnot. So. But it worked out. So Jordan, with a little cut on his finger, he was fine. He would have been okay. No problem whatsoever. So, but anyway, the pizza, that's another thing. The pizza, the flu game 5 of the 1997 NBA Finals. Rumors obviously going around that there was foul room service. A specific pizza that was the night of Jordan's flu game, obviously. He spent that week in Park City, a ski town out of Salt Lake City. And, they said that they basically confirmed, especially the trainer, confirmed that Sunday that it was the pizza that it was just a pizza that only Jordan ate. And, what can I say? It was just one of those games where one of the bus boys tried to poison his pizza and his food and make him have a crappy night because they were playing Utah, obviously, in the 1997 NBA Finals. And of course, everyone was trying to poison Jordan, no matter what. And guess what? At the end of the day, he still racked out 38 points, 7 boards, and 5 assists in that Game 5 win. So what flew? What flew? He's concerned about a cut finger from a cigar cutter, but you're playing with a flu, flu, fever-like symptoms, and he still dropped almost 40 points. So this guy could play through anything, anything. I mean, I hate to say it, but LeBron had to get carried off the court by two teammates of his. So that's saying a lot right there. Jordan would get up right away and walk away. But this is what I'm saying. You play with the flu, and he's still dropping 40 almost. So, it is what it is. The flu game did slip into NBA, basically called the food poisoning game, as I just mentioned. But it's that's what I'm saying. These people out there, especially when you're a top NBA player, like I said, like LeBron, like Jordan back in the day, the Greek Freak, all the top players in the NBA currently, like they gotta watch out what they're eating. Especially like I said, if you're a top guy, it's gonna happen. These guys, these bus boys, these delivery guys want to poison your food, knowing that you're staying at their hotel, and and that's what happened. Maybe it was some bad pepperoni, maybe it was some bad sausage, whatever it is. But Jordan got sick that day, and we'll see what happens. So that's what happened. But I believe all those questions will get answered if it happens in 2020. We will see what happens. Real quick, voices heard and not heard. You had John Stockton and Reggie Miller taking bigger roles as storytellers. Larry Bird as well. Basically getting into exchanges after the Game 7 of '98 NBA Finals. You also get cameos from Jordan's three oldest children, Jeffrey, Marcus, and Jasmine, basically giving him a glimmer of now and then. And, of course, his mother, Juanita, obviously Jordan's wife, Juanita, who he married for 20 years. She never made an appearance, unfortunately. But and nor did Vet and and the two young twin daughters. So they just didn't want to get involved with this situation here, and that we won't know. It's probably just a simple, hey, you know what, this is what it's going to be like, and we just don't want to make an appearance. And last, and a couple other ones real quick. The most basketball in the series. These last two episodes, we knew we're going to get the most basketball out of the first 8 that we saw. So 9 and 10, the last two episodes, you're going to get everything. You're going to get everything. And of course, the '98 NBA Finals with the Jazz, the final shot. I have a limited edition out of 23,000 plaques that were made. A Michael Jordan last shot against the Utah Jazz plaque hanging in my basement with 2 of his rookie cards. They only made 23,000 of them, and I have number 23 out of 23,000, which is pretty insane. And ladies and gentlemen, that's not for sale. Okay, if you want to reach out to me and offer me millions for it, it's not for sale. It is not for sale. I'll tell you right now. But it's something that I spent a lot of money on. But I've got it when I was about 9, 10 years old, and it was a gift too from my parents. So I don't even want to know what they spent on it. Clearly not as much as people would be offering me for it today. I can tell you that much. And last but not least, Jordan is the GOAT and was an original. What can I say about it? 5 consecutive Sundays and 10 hours of our lives. It's funny to think that the most of us would welcome another 5, another 10. The documentary reminded many of us why Jordan rose so high and looms so large over the NBA, over sports, and over American culture. And now for others, especially these younger kids, like I said, between thinking that LeBron is the man, the GOAT, I get it. He's a great talent. He's a great, great player. But unfortunately, MJ will always be number 1 for me because that was my childhood icon, legend. That when I'm playing basketball, when I'm, basically when I was 5, 6 years old, that's when I got into the Bulls. That's when I got into playing all these sports and watching Michael Jordan. I could relive that 28 years ago when I first saw this. Again, you kids that are in your early 20s, you have no idea what you're talking about when you see and hear of Michael Jordan because you never seen him play in real life. I have. I could live through it, So that's when basketball was great. Basketball was great in the 90s and will always be the 90s for the best NBA basketball ever. The 90s was the best decade of basketball, and I will end it like that when it comes to that. But Jordan was an original. Like I said, what Jordan did have going on for him that those who have some since, such as Kobe, obviously, LeBron, obviously, they just haven't had his originality. Air Jordans with the footprints later followed this. Breathtaking basketball exploits. The crossover appeal. Baggy shorts, shaved head to his basically planned attire and heady financial success on and off the court, where he and every other person have followed him for. I mean, this documentary projects come out and it will be the same all over again. But do we expect another one to come out? we'll see. I would love to see another Jordan documentary. This was amazing. No one has scored like Jordan and won like him and played both ends like him and looked so graceful and powerful while doing it quite like him. You had NBA marquees before him, Bill Russell, Will Chamberlain, Mr. Jerry West, Oscar Robinson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, my boy Julius Erving, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, just to name a few. Basically none of them transcended the game and opened up the world to the NBA and the sport like Michael Jordan did. And I will always support that in and out for the rest of my goddamn life. I will. And, you see players supporting his 23 for a reason. Look at LeBron James when he was supporting the 23. It was all because of Michael Jordan. It was because of Jordan, no doubt in my mind. He even said that. He even LeBron claimed he wore 23 because of Michael Jordan. No doubt. I know that was his high school jersey as well, but he wore it because of Jordan. And a lot of people say that as well, and I stand by each and everybody that says that too about LeBron. He wore number 23 because of Jordan. Everyone wore 23, even myself, because of Michael Jordan. That's how much of an impact he had on my life growing up. And of course, UNC. This is why I'm a big Tar Heels fan, because of Michael Jordan. He invented his own above the rim game as well, and the impact. He added experience. Aggressive leadership, and the desire to win out of everything. He always will have the desire to win, all costs and all the times. That's how it's going to be. He is the superhero, and he was my superhero growing up. And he will always be my superhero in terms of my favorite sports athlete of all time is always and will be the GOAT himself, number 23, Michael Jordan, and I will stand by that. So that basically concludes my segment of The Last Dance, episodes 9 and 10. Oh, for damn sure, I will be watching it all over again from episode 1. You could hear me out on that 100% because I loved this documentary so much, and the best one I've seen in a very long time. So that concludes that. And here we are. I know it's 12:28, but I want to extend this out. I know 12 ounce won't mind. So I'm going to extend this out for at least another 10 minutes so I can get you guys rocking and rolling with my top 5 wide receivers and running backs of the NFL season. See, I still have the NBA in my mind because of Jordan. But NFL top 5 wide receivers. Here we go for the 2020 fantasy football season. Number 1, Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas by far. We saw what he did in the last season himself. He's killing it. I know I mentioned this before last week on my 2-round fantasy football mock draft 1.0. Expect to see a 2.0 probably in June. I'm going to come out with 2.0 probably in the first week of June on one of my shows. So be tuned for that. But, it's funny because among the top 40 single game performances throughout the season, he had just one of them, but yet he still finishes the number 1 fantasy receiver. And honestly, you can't argue about that. You could probably argue him with Davante Adams. And to be honest here, if Davante Adams never got turf toe and wasn't out for, 6 games, I think Davante would have overtook Michael Thomas, no doubt, at the number 1 position here. But Michael Thomas, overall consensus, number 1 receiver. That's what I have here. Number 2, I just said that about him. Davante Adams, number 2 for me. Like I said, he missed part of the 2019 season, but he's just been so consistent throughout the years. He's also one of my keepers in one of my dynasty leagues. I'm on year 3 with him now, and it's crazy to me to think that he's only going to be $31 when I have to pay for him for my 5 years. I also extended him to a 5-year part, so I will have him for another 2, including this one, another 2 more seasons for my dynasty league. So I'm happy to have Davante on my squad. And like I said, the Packers didn't add a wide receiver in this draft, so his targets will go up. And the fact that it's only him and Devin Funchess, Davante is going to get the ball a lot. And he's the only other wide receiver who should be considered close to Michael Thomas in these drafts, like I just said. So Davante Adams, number 2. Tyreek Hill, number 3, the speedster from Kansas City himself. When he's on the field, good luck trying to tackle him because he's going to give you a touchdown a game. He's going to give you over 100 yards receiving. He posts wide receiver 2 or better numbers in just 21 to 43 games over that time. And like I said, he's been a very good asset in fantasy over the last 3 years. you know you could trust this guy, and you could expect to go pretty far in fantasy playoffs when you have Tyreek Hill by your side. And I love Tyreek Hill at number 3 overall. Number 4, Julio Jones. Now, listen, you could argue that Hopkins could go here, but the fact that the consistency, and you could go all the way back to 2012, 2013 season and find the last time Julio Jones didn't finish as a top 8 wide receiver in fantasy football. He's been so consistent in this aspect for the last 7-8 years now. It's been amazing. This is why, he might not score that many touchdowns, but he sure as hell can give you 150 yards a game. No problem whatsoever. And of course, injuries, I get it. But, even with Calvin Ridley, he was expected to have a bigger role this season, Julio Jones to me is just such a safe option, and you can expect him to be in the top 10 every single year. As I just mentioned, since 2012, 2013, he's been top 8 as a receiver for contribution. So, again, Julio Jones, maybe he'll get 6 or 7 touchdowns this year, but you could damn well expect him to have a very phenomenal receiving season this year again. And then Nuke Hopkins at number 5 for me to close it out. First and foremost, the only reason why I have him 5th is just because of Kyler Murray. I know we got 1 year out of Kyler. I just want to see more of Kyler Murray. And I know they have Fitz. I know they have Christian Kirk in the lineup here. I think Hopkins will do well, obviously. He's also, however, in a tougher division for sure with Seattle, San Francisco, and you have the Rams as well. So, but we know what he can do. It's going to be tough for him to get the 150 mark, target mark, and he has done previously with the Texans. But we know how efficient he is. Again, it just really depends on Kyler Murray. We know he's a slinger. And I see a good season for DeAndre Hopkins this season as well. But he kind of basically rounds out that top 5 for wide receivers. So there you have it. Michael Thomas, Devontae, Tyreek Hill, Julio Jones, and Nuke DeAndre Hopkins at number 5. That rounds out my top 5 receivers for the NFL fantasy football drafts that are coming up. And here we are. I want to talk about real quick. I know I got a couple minutes left, but my top 5 running backs for fantasy football. I'm going to be completely honest here. This has been a consensus and will be a consensus 1, 2, 3 in terms of this season. But number 1 overall, Christian McCaffrey. I don't have to explain more. He's also my other dynasty keeper along with Devontae Adams. I got him in a trade 2 years ago, which was crazy. I gave him LaShawn McCoy, and he gave me Christian McCaffrey and Jordan Reed. Like I said, this was 2 years ago. So Christian McCaffrey was just up and coming that year. And now in his 3rd season, I have him. I have him for 5 years, and I'm glad that I have him. So he's going to be on my team for a very, very long time. And like I said, when it comes, you could argue between him and Saquon. I love my boy being the Penn State, representation. I am my alma mater. I love Saquon. I hate that he's a Giant because I'm an Eagles fan. I hate it, but I love Saquon. But Christian McCaffrey is the overall number 1 consensus for all of fantasy football, and of course for running backs as well. You're going to get what you're going to get out of Christian McCaffrey. Catching, running, he has it all. He will score. He'll give you 20 plus a game for points. He'll give you 20 plus points fantasy wise a game. Sometimes I think on average he'll give you about 20 to 25 a game. So you're getting out of Christian McCaffrey. He's my number 1 overall. Saquon Barkley, number 2. Again, you can argue one or the other, but Saquon Barkley for me, he could overtake number 1 because of the offensive line that the Giants drafted this season. Could definitely help impact Saquon's run game big time. I know he had a little bit of a down year last year, but this year expect him to be back on terms. Again, he's the number 1. He's the number 2 overall consensus running back for me. Again, what you're getting out of Saquon Barkley. Catching, running, breakaway speed. It's tough to argue him with McCaffrey here, but I think you're safe to go 1, 2, McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley. Number 3, Zeke Elliott. Now, I know there's a lot of speculation with his contract and everything, but Zeke Elliott is still another freak of nature. He's a beast. He can do on the ground. He can catch the ball too, but his game is really just up the middle. You give him the ball, let him do the rest. He will carry defenders on his legs for another 3 or 4 yards. That's how much of a bull horse this human is. He's a freak of nature. I mean, that's why he does feed him, like feed him more, feed him the ball more. That's his job. Let him do it. He can back it up. But Zeke for me is my overall consensus number 3 here. Again, another running back. You can't argue if you have a top 3 pick this year, you know you're guaranteed McCaffrey, Barkley, or Zeke Elliott. So I highly expect those that are top 3 to have one of these running backs when everything is said and done here. Number 4, I'm taking Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara is number 4 on my list for me, and it really I know he had a down year this year, and but we know what you're getting out of him. Again, another division where the defenses aren't great. Atlanta, Tampa had a pretty solid run game this year. I'll give them that much, but it's just more of a matter that what you're getting out of Alvin Kamara this year, and he will be having a bounce back season this year for sure. He plays in a dome, obviously, so you don't have to worry about any sort of wind or rain or any sort of situation. And he plays Atlanta a game as well, so that's another game in the dome. I always benefit running backs and receivers that play in domes more than half of the NFL season. So Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas, Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, just to name a couple. But again, I think Kamara is another all-round contributor to the Saints. You're getting out of him. Again, he could be a kickoff specialist. He can run the ball back on special teams. He can catch in the backfield. He can set up as a slot and catch the ball. He's a good runner as well. He has it all too. That's why I have him ahead of Dalvin Cook, because Dalvin Cook, I'm not sure. He had one healthy season last year. Okay, last year was his first healthy season, and he's doing all this talking about contract and whatnot. And I'm like, dude, you can't talk up your hype yet. Yes, you're a great running back. I get it. You're great. You're a great aspect to the Vikings. But you need more. Everyone needs more out of you than just one healthy season. Let's be honest here. So that's why Dalvin Cook falls back for me. Alvin Kamara is my number 4. And last but not least, this is a tough one for me. This is a very tough one for me. I love Derrick Henry, but to me, I just think that I think he slips down a little bit to my number 6 spot. I have Dalvin Cook as my number 5 for this season. I know I just mentioned it depends on a healthy season, but again, he is a very big asset to the Vikings. They lost to Stephon Diggs in the offseason, but you also have Madison in the backfield behind him, who does come in once in a while. But to me, Dalvin Cook, I know most sites have him at 3. Some sites have him at 4, but for me, for Philly Pete, I'm having him at the 5 spot for me. It's tough between him and Derrick Henry. You could even throw Nick Chubb in the mix. I love Chubb at 6 as my sixth best running back, but I think Dalvin Cook takes the cake here at number 5. Again, we need another healthy season for him. That's why he dropped a spot for me. I had him at 4 a couple weeks ago, but all this talk and all this kind of led me off from him. But he stays at number 5. Dalvin Cook, to stay healthy, and maybe next year I could talk about you in the top 3. So we will see. But that basically concludes. I know I went a little bit over, but that concludes Philly Pete's top 5 fantasy receivers, top 5 running backs. Next week, I know this week's jam-packed, but next week I'm going to talk about my top 5 quarterbacks and top 5 tight ends. So be on the lookout for that next week. Tomorrow, Gina will be back on board as we talk about AEW Dynamite, and I will talk about my NHL simulated playoff as it would be a March Madness style tournament. So I hope everyone has a fantastic rest of your Tuesday. Stay safe, and talk to you guys tomorrow. Later.